Welcome to Auntie's Art Club, where today we are going to be making cartoon mushrooms. So for this, I suggest you have heavy paper, but any paper will work. Watercolor paints, oil pastels, water, paintbrushes, pencil, a Sharpie or other black marker. Use what you got. And optional is a blending stump and a scratching tool. I don't even use a scratching tool, but I do use a blending stump. Neither of them are absolutely necessary though. We're going to start by looking at some pictures I've taken of mushrooms in the forest. For this piece, the mushroom is going to be the focus. So that's going to be the biggest thing in our picture. And our perspective is going to be as if we are crouching on the forest floor, looking at the tiny little mushrooms, and they're the only thing we can see. Just like how I took this picture, the focus of the picture is the mushroom. Okay, and it doesn't have to be perfect. These are just ideas of all the different ways these fabulous fungi can appear in the wilds. And you don't have to make yours look like any of these. This is just some inspiration. So imagine you're crouching on the forest floor and you're observing the shapes, the colors, the different structures. Some mushrooms are flat, some grow out of trees, some grow out of the ground. And some of them even come in really cool shapes and colors. This one looked like a mushroom from a fairy tale of some sort. I really like the shape, almost like a bell shape on top, but this one was really flat and you can see the stem. So this is the perspective we're going for. It wouldn't necessarily be what you see walking along the path. You would have to kneel down to see this. You wouldn't see them like this from above. This one was almost a pinky purple color, and the stem was hidden by its long cap. So these are just some examples of mushrooms. Since this is a cartoon piece, there's no pressure to get them exactly right. I want you to just have fun with it. The main point is that we're practicing blending and using lines to create something. So there's lots of different lines. This one almost looked like it had some stripes on it. It was growing right out of a dead tree. So you can always go back and have a look at those mushrooms, but we're going to get started with our project now. So I start by sketching out a very simple mushroom shape. I want it to be most of my paper. You don't want a teeny tiny little mushroom in the middle. It's going to make it harder to do the next part. You want to make it pretty big. It's totally up to you. You are the artist. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just create the bell shape on top or whatever shape your mushroom cap has. And if your mushroom has a stem, you can put that here. You want, again, to imagine you're crouching on the forest floor, looking really close up at this mushroom. So it's going to be taking up most of your paper, and you're going to be looking at it straight on, not from above, but straight on, so you can see all its little details. And once you have the shape the way you like it, you're going to get your black marker of some description, whatever you have handy, and you're going to outline your mushroom shape in a very thick black line. And the reason it's thick is this is going to make the oil pastels a little easier. You don't want to color right over your line. You want to leave that black line existing there. So try not to go over it with your oil pastels, but it's thick, so you can go over it a little bit. So I layered my oil pastels, and because this is a cartoon mushroom, I used cartoony colors, some purples and some blues. Those do exist in mushrooms in real life. And then I added some darker parts of the mushroom and some lighter highlights where I imagined that the light would be hitting the shape of the bell to give it that cap a really round look. So you can see where I've added highlights. I did use a blending stump, which is basically just compressed paper, because I don't love the way the oil pastels feel on my fingers, but you do not need to do this. In fact, a lot of people love blending the oil pastels with their fingers. It's totally up to you. If you don't have a blending stump, you can also use a paper towel on your finger. Experiment and figure out what you like. So I put on a really thick layer of oil pastels and I take time adding more and more layers. You want to have about 3 colors per part of your paper. That's going to give you the richest oil pastel. Once you're done that, we're going to move on to watercoloring different forest shapes, different forest textures, and the colors that you might imagine you could see on the forest floor. So think about looking at that mushroom crouched down on the forest floor. The sticks and the leaves, though tiny if you were standing up, if you were crouched down next to that mushroom, they're going to look bigger. And this part, you can just use your imagination. I just kept going with shapes and colors I liked until I was happy. So you can add in the texture of maybe there's a tree in the background. It doesn't have to make sense. You're just practicing. And the best part about the oil pastel is you can paint right up to the mushroom and the oil pastel will protect your mushroom. So it's going to resist the color of the watercolor. Once you've done your paint and it is dried, we are going to move on to the most time-consuming part of this project, and that is the lines. Because this is a cartoon scene, we are outlining everything in black marker, and you can use whatever black marker you use for your mushroom. I think that lines are where we discover what kind of an artist we are. So take your time here. Do you like to make some of your lines thick and some of them thin? How does that change your picture? Do you like to experiment by curving the lines or adding in different shadows? So you can see there, I started rounding anywhere there was a sharp corner, and that was an experiment on my part, but I felt that it made the whole picture fun to draw, for one, and have a kind of a cartoony look. Because in real life, all the lines aren't usually meeting in such a soft way, but this is where you discover your artistic style. So go over your painting where you kind of had fun and splashed some paint on the page. Once it's dry, go over it and add in those details. Add in little tiny spots of texture that you might see on the forest floor. Add in different details to your leaf shapes. I actually experimented with something called pointillism, is where you take the point of your marker and make little dots. So I started adding little dots and lines that were thick in some places and thin in other places. But this is where you will experiment. So take your time with this and don't get discouraged. Keep going until it feels like it's done to you. And that's going to be different for everybody. And as you can see, I took my time with this for sure, and I kept adding. So I went away and then I'd come back and I'd look at pictures of a forest floor and then I'd come back and then I'd look at a stick and then I'd come back and I'd add little details. I think I did this one over 3 or 4 days. And just whenever I was sitting at my desk, I would add some more detail with my pen. And yours is going to look like your art and mine is going to look like my art. So however yours turns out is just perfect because you did it. Let's go over these steps one more time. You're going to sketch a large mushroom with a pencil on some heavy paper if you got it. Then you're going to outline your mushroom in thick black marker. Once you've done that, you're going to color it with oil pastels, blending them to get them exactly how you want them to be. You're going to watercolor forest shapes, colors, and textures in the background. And then you're going to have some fun with your black marker, outlining all the foresty things with black lines, adding different shapes, making some of your lines thin, some of them thick, experimenting with dots, and actually putting in like the lines on the leaves. I'm going to show you what mine turned out like after all of that. And yours will look something like this, but of course with your own artistic flair. So this is what mine looked like. I went for lots and lots and lots of lines. And I took my time with it and it was very fun. Remember to put on some good music and be mindful while you're drawing. You could even put on a podcast. It's totally up to you. But this art time is time for you to just sit and connect with your own inner artist, which is super important. So I'd love to see how yours turned out. This is mine. I'm pretty pleased with it. It's very cartoony and it definitely looks like a mushroom. So I suppose this would be mission accomplished. We've created a cartoon mushroom. I'm excited to see how yours turn out. Remember, in art, there's no right or wrong. If you are doing it, you're doing it right. Thank you so much for creating with me and have a beautiful, beautiful day.